Fine, no.
Okay. Welcome back to From the Fabricator, year number 2. This would be episode number 1 for 2022, 13 overall. And that's going to be an adventure for me to keep track of going forward. It's getting numbers that I can't count with my fingers. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me. I'm Max Perlstein, host of the From the Fabricator podcast. Year number 2, really appreciate you supporting this past year. And we've got a great year ahead. And today is just an awesome podcast with 3 incredible guests that we will get to momentarily. So happy New Year, a happy and healthy one to everyone. Hopefully it's off to a good start and everyone is staying well. A few quick little pieces. One, if you're reading my blog next week, you will see the predictions for 2022. I recap my 2021 predictions. I wasn't too far off. I think I could have gone 5 for 5. I gave myself a 3 and 2. But I was pretty close, better than normal and better than my sports picks, that's for sure. So check that out on the blog. I appreciate the support there. News-wise, 2 big pieces. One, the Ubiquitous Energy, which is a company I talk about quite a bit. They have a deal in place during their latest round of fundraising with Anderson Window. That's exciting stuff, and you can read about that online, Glass Magazine, Window and Door. But that's big news when a company the size of Anderson it starts to accept and embrace new technology. That is good for all of us. And congrats to the great people at Ubiquitous Energy on that very, very positive news. The other piece of news, I mentioned it a little bit on my blog, Oldcastle building envelope. As we know, there was a story about them being for sale. I am starting to see a lot of smoke around there. I don't know who is behind all of this, but due diligence is in full speed. I wish I knew who it was, who's doing it or what the groups are, but I do know the tires are being kicked and they're being kicked pretty darn hard. So there's something big going on there. Can't wait to see what happens. But that one is in full swing, and it's one I think our entire industry is sitting by and watching, waiting to see who ends up with it. Will it be my brother, Stevie P? You know, he is saving his money. I do know he has a couple billion laying around. So anything's possible. And right now he's laughing at this TV screen, I'm sure. Anyway, that's the big news there. It's something to watch and keep an eye on. And then last but not least, GPAD and BEC registration is open. BEC, something that I think everybody that watches me knows what that is. The Building Envelope Contractors Conference in Nashville, fantastic event, must attend event. GPAD, same thing, and also at the same place in Nashville just the day after. So take a look at glass.org, check out those 2 shows, get signed up. If you're a glass fabricator, you need to send your technical people or people making decisions on your machinery and your software to GPAD. Make sure you are there. So you might send different people to BEC and different people to GPAD, but make that happen. If you have any questions, hit me up, but check out glass.org for more details. All right, I've talked way too much as it is. Let's get ready for our interviews. I've got 3 incredible guests this month. Nicole Harris, president of the NGA. She is fascinating. She's got some interesting things along the way, great food for thought sort of items. Brilliant human. Another exciting person that I'm interviewing this month, Tara Brummet of Vitrum out of Canada, tremendous fabricator, and she is a fantastic talent, off the charts, really sharp and great for our industry. And then last but not least, Andy Russo of Glass and Metalcraft out of Michigan. Andy is a sharp, impressive guy, great for our industry, and his company that he's working with at Glass and Metalcraft, doing some wonderful things. And again, interesting his background, where he came from, and his mindset. The consultative sort of approach, really smart and good for our world. So they are all coming up. Check that out. We start with Nicole. Here we go. Okay, to kick things off in 2022, I'm thrilled to be joined by Nicole Harris, the president and CEO of the National Glass Association, the NGA. And Nicole, thank you so much for taking the time for doing this. I'm thrilled to have you with me.
Oh, thrilled to be here, Max.
That's
great way to start the year.
I think so too. I've had you marked on my calendar. I wanted to get through a year of podcast before I brought you out. I wanted to make sure I worked out the kinks, sort of thing. And obviously, I've known you a long time, but and so I just want to jump into this. I've known you for a long time, and I've only known you as NGA, Glass Magazine and NGA, but I know very little about you other than you're Canadian. So I'd love to start with, your background. How did you find your way to this industry? Because I'm embarrassed that I don't know. I don't know.
It's pretty mundane. I applied for the job of editor-in-chief back in the 90s and never left.
Wow.
So I had my master's, was going to go on for a PhD, decided, I'll just take a job for a little bit, see how I like it. And yeah, the industry got into its hooks in me. So
Well, when you get in it, you never can leave. That's for sure.
I
But what part of Canada are you from? You from Montreal? Where are you from?
I grew up in Montreal,
Okay,
yes, but I'm a full-blown American citizen now. I got my citizenship actually back in 97,
gotcha.
and found myself defending the US of A and thought, okay, it's time to make this transition from what I don't even know if they call them a resident alien.
Right.
I had a green card. Yeah.
But no, well, it's awesome. And now with NGA, I mean, we go way back. I remember when you were with Glass Magazine and everything that you brought. And you've now moved, roles within NGA. You were, at the magazine side, and now, the president and CEO. And the one thing that I when I wasn't involved with NGA, I never understood the value of it. And I think that's probably some of the challenge that you have, and the staff, the excellent staff of NGA has, is trying to explain that value proposition. And that was one of the things that, among other items that I have on my list for you today to get through, is that value proposition on why it's so important to be involved with NGA and why you should be a member. So I figured I'd give you the, give you the stage. Why, those people that are on the fence that don't understand what it is, why should they be involved in the National Glass Association?
Well, the NGA pretty much defends, promotes, and educates the industry and our stakeholders. And that is what trade associations do, nonprofit. Um, and that's what we exist to do. So uh, I guess defending and promoting takes many different forms.
Right.
Education, we have all kinds of different things that we're offering now. But many of your viewers will know the phrase "battle for the wall." That's just one example. Uh, Wherever there's incursions that may harm our industry, NGA is there. We have an advocacy and technical team that includes Irma Lasole and then Tom Culp, Tom uh,
Zaremba.
Zaremba,
Mhm.
and Nick Restar. And, they're our front line. And they are in all those code hearing meetings. They're there defending and promoting the glass and glazing industry. And that's a huge part of what a trade association does. And it's really important. Education is obviously, a huge part of our mission too. Our when we first joined, so the National Glass Association, the Glass Association North America, were two separate organizations for many, many years. And I know you knew
Mhm.
both organizations, and your company at the time was a member of both. When we joined in 2018, our members came together and we reviewed what is our mission statement, our purpose, our vision. And our vision really sort of sums up everything that we believe glass should do in the built environment. And it's all about, I mean, we have impacts and we have products where people live, play, work, and heal. I mean, that sums it up.
Yeah.
That's our vision for the future. It's our material of choice. Obviously, we're biased, but glass enhances spaces where people do everything they do as human beings. So everything we do is focused on that for the inward looking for the industry, and then externally to our stakeholders, which include consumers, obviously, but architects, building code officials, government regulators, everybody that is impacted by glass.
So in essence, I mean, the NGA touches everything that people need to be, concerned about and aware of. And, one of the things that I'm most excited about for 2022 is my glass class. I think more than ever, education and growing that staff that you have, because it's so hard to find people right now. You want to make the most of what you have. The chances of you, finding that 5-year professional who is available to step in the door and come and work. That's not happening. You need to grow your own people. You need to give them those skills. And I'm thrilled about my glass class. I think that is the timing. I know it's been around for a bit, but I think it's prime. It's needed more than ever right now.
Yeah, that's true. And NGA kind of got ahead of the curve on with online education on that. And now with the pandemic, obviously, and all kinds of more people working, well, not in our industry or on the job site or in a factory, but there's a lot of home work going on too.
Right.
So when we first relaunched my glass class as an online resource, we wanted to make sure that it was really focused on adult learning. And I learned, and I don't know half as much as my team knows for sure, but, or not even way less than half, but there's such a thing as instructional design. It's a profession, and it's all about how adults learn. So we have a lot, I don't try to remember how many, 60 or maybe it's 100 courses now, I should know. We have them translated into Spanish.
Yes.
To serve that community as well. And it all feeds into our NGA apprenticeship program, which is also a pretty new development. But to your point about we need to go out there and attract labor and get people educated, because glass is a highly technical product and need basic education. Then you need to stair step all the way up in order to become a master glazer. So we're trying to address all those needs.
And I think you are. I think you are. I'm again speaking with Nicole Harris, President and CEO of the National Glass Association. You can find the NGA online at glass.org. And we were just talking about my glass class. You can find that at myglassclass.com. You can also obviously find it through the main portal of glass.org. But the nice thing about myglassclass.com is, again, you can see all the courses. They are translated in Spanish too, which is a burgeoning workforce that you could definitely take advantage and get them trained. Folks that feel like Spanish is their first language, take advantage of it, because those courses are there. And that's got me excited, for 2022, because we have to take advantage of that education that NGA is putting out. And go from there.
And I should mention, you had a previous guest, your December guest was none other than Mr. Donald Fries, and
Yes.
the Fries family, that foundation, DJ and Don, and also DJ's mom, they were instrumental in starting. NGA has a foundation. It's a 501c3. It's another nonprofit charitable organization,
Right.
separate from the trade association. And the Fries family, donated significant funds so that we could offer my glass class courses and apprenticeship training and all this to people out in our industry. That was a tremendous boost. And when the pandemic really hit hard there, we were able to open up my glass class to all these people that were really at home. Even though our industry was declared an essential business, there were still a lot of people, sitting at home, and we thought, let's do this. And Don and DJ were tremendous help for that. We had other very generous sponsors as well. I don't want to neglect everybody else who donated, but
Right.
They were kind of at the forefront with that.
Yeah, it was kudos to Mr. Fries and the Fries Foundation. It was an absolute blast talking to him last month, and I still have the lessons that he imparted in that half an hour in my brain. So I'm moving forward. I feel like a better person after spending that time with him, and now moving into you. So this has been a pretty cool transition there of powerful people in our industry. So now I want to put you a little bit on the spot with some fun questions, and then we'll pop back to the more serious stuff. Curious. I mean, somebody, I know a lot of people in this industry where you are their role model. You won't believe that, but I do know people who have said, I want to be like Nicole. My daughter wants to be like you. She has no idea about the glass business, but she looks at you as like powerful woman, runs a major organization in an industry dominated by men. And so, I mean, you do have a lot of people that look at you as a role model, but who is your role model? Who was your role model, or who is it now?
Well, my role models change not even year to year, but from time to time. So my current role model is Lewis Hamilton.
Okay, the driver, F1 driver. Okay,
F1 driver, and I think he's just he's really impressive. Obviously, he's an incredible driver, and I like fast cars, and certainly Formula One's right up
Yeah.
there. But he's also humble. He also works very, very hard. I think you see any of these top athletes in their field, they're all, yeah, they're gifted, but they also work
They're
really hard.
maniacal. They're maniacal in their work ethic.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. So I would say right now, Lewis Hamilton,
Wow.
really impressive. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Did not see that. So my next question is, what are you reading and watching right now? And I assume, they have that F1, little mini series. I assume that that's probably one of the things you're watching right now or have already watched.
Yes, no, I've been watching that. I follow them on Instagram. A little bit of a junkie. I'm hoping to get to Montreal, my hometown, next summer when F1 comes back. So that'll be fun. Right now, I'm reading Adam Grant, Think Again.
Okay.
And he's a Wharton School professor, written a lot of different books, really interesting ideas. He also has a podcast.
Okay.
And I also listen to another podcast besides yours, Shane, Knowledge Project. That's really
Yep.
interesting.
Yep.
So yeah, and then I did get a masterclass subscription.
Okay.
So I'm just flitting all over the place for that one. It was like Malcolm Gladwell or how to make eggs, just all kinds of really interesting speakers. So I'll
Bob
sort of,
Iger, Bob Iger's in there, I think, on
yeah,
Masterclass, the
yeah,
now retired Disney chief. So very cool. You're
yeah.
hanging with all the big people. I can't wait to the Nicole Harris Masterclass.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's pretty interesting. I flower arranging. I thought, okay, yeah, why don't I look at that? So it's really, there's so many interesting personalities, and they're all really good at what they do. So it's fun.
I like it. I like it. And the mention of Wharton makes me think of our mutual friend Chris Dolan. He's a Wharton guy too, and I know he listens to this. So, Chris, your Wharton crew are out there doing good things. So, my last fun question for you is personal goal for 2022. Do you have any sort of either resolution, routine, goal? What are you looking at for 2022?
Well, my goal, so I come up with a word or a phrase every year that
Okay.
serves as my anchor. And I was definitely influenced by Adam Grant, Think Again. And so it is, Think Again. And for me, it's so that's one piece of it. But the other piece is I want to learn something new, even if it's tiny, and reevaluate my own thoughts and my own, opinions and everything every single day.
Nice.
And that's so we'll see how that goes, but it's really about curiosity, which is one of our NGA staff goals. And it's, to me, it's really important. It's about, you just have to be, it's like that the master class, anybody on that, they're continual learners, continuous learning. Certainly a goal for the NGA and me personally. And I'd also I want to make perfect scrambled eggs, so that would be another one too. I've watched several videos on that.
Okay.
It's a
Okay.
simple stuff, but it takes practice.
And I always joke within the glass industry that there's never a dull moment, and I think part of it is there's always something new every day. So I do think you
That's
have a
true.
great opportunity to learn something new every day, and it's going to be an interesting year. So good. I'll continue to check in with you on that. I'm curious to see how this all goes. That's fun. That's fun. So now flipping back over to business, NGA has a huge year ahead. There's 4 events that I've pulled together that are coming up within the next several months, leading off with later this month in January, the NGA Glass Conference in Long Beach. That's something that a lot of people don't sometimes understand. This is a technical conference, but very, very important because the work that gets done, literally can change the pathway of our industry. Talk a little bit about the NGA Glass Conference and its importance in the landscape.
Yeah, well, we have 2 conferences a year because it's that important, and technology and all the information that we're trying to produce and share with the industry needs constant updating. So our committees, we have 4 committees: the forming committee, the fabrication committee, and or we call it the fabricating committee, advocacy overriding everything, and the installing committee. And that represents our sections. The NGA represents the entire supply chain. So that's the entire thing right there. If you're not in the room at these technical meetings, at the conferences, your company is not doesn't have a voice
Right.
as it could. I mean, obviously the NGA represents all of our members, and we do that, I think, very well. But having that seat at the table, being on a committee or even in the room
Hmm.
is absolutely key. So it's not just about your company, but if you're not in there, then you're not learning about bird-friendly glass or how, what the codes are, what's being impacted there, security glazing. Uh, there's just so many topics because, as I said earlier, glass is a high performance, highly technical product,
Yeah.
and it's capable of doing amazing things. And our industry, showcases that regularly. But on the other case, as a company, if you're fabricating or you're installing and you're not in that room, you're missing out.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. And now, speaking of missing out, after that we have a back-to-back conference set up in Nashville with BEC and GPAD, and that's I think for those of us who attend, we know the value of it, but there's probably some people who shockingly have never attended BEC and then don't really maybe know what GPAD is. Let's talk a little bit about those. We'll start with BEC. Curious, what was your reaction when you went to a BEC for the first time? I think it was still under the Ghana headline when you went. Your reaction then, and then now how it's continued to be just such an important gathering. What are your thoughts
Yeah,
there?
well, we're just 1 year shy of our 25th anniversary for that. And I think I would say, since we're talking, you're kind of a co-founder of BEC. You were a big deal there when I first
Yeah,
came on the scene, and you were, I think, responsible. I mean, a lot of people, it's never just one, but your enthusiasm and what you brought in there and how you pulled it all together. That was remarkable. I mean, I remember I can visualize you on stage at the conference, and we're talking hundreds of people there. And if I had to sum it up, I'd say BC is the LinkedIn of our industry.
yeah,
Like it's the in-person equivalent of what you get on LinkedIn. I mean, you get all of that interconnection, you see what's going on, you learn, and it's tremendous. The connections and the sharing, and that's why we got 700 plus people, building envelope professionals attending it every year.
and I think.
So we're back in Nashville. So
Yep.
go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish. Yeah, finish. No, I was just going to
Uh,
say, I think you nailed. I think you nailed the new marketing statement. It's the LinkedIn of industry conferences. I mean, it is really. That's what it is. The connections and the live networking is incredible. I mean, that's
yeah,
and I'm honored to be that I've been involved for such a long time, and I've been very fortunate to work with so many amazing people along the way, and still do. I mean, the planning committee that works on this is fantastic. And they care, and maybe sometimes they care too much because they're worried about the way the chairs are set up. Sometimes it's like, guys, let's focus on other things. I mean, it's the passion is there, and so it's
yeah.
very
And
exciting.
that's the part of being involved in a trade association and getting engaged with the products and services. I mean, we exist for our members in the
Yeah,
industry. And when you have those members directly engaged, it's really enriching. So that's what I would say. I'm really excited. We're going back to Nashville.
yeah.
So BEC in 2020, that was the last event we were able to host live. And it was a huge success. We made a pretty big leap of faith moving away from Las Vegas.
Yep.
And it was a big hit. So we missed Las Vegas last year, but it's really about going in opposite years to where our trade show is, Atlanta, Las Vegas. So we thought, let's bring the industry together in another part of the country. And that's what we're doing. So we're back in Nashville at a brand new, gorgeous hotel, the Hyatt. And then we'll be back in Vegas in 2023 for our 25th anniversary, which is going to be a blowout. That'll be so much fun.
No, it's going to be super. And so, yeah, it's in Nashville at the end of March. And for the first time, we are co-locating BEC with GPAD, Glass
Yes.
Processing and Automation Days. And this is a conference that not a lot of people may understand yet. They may not have been aware of it. It's been around for a few years, well done and well executed by the team from Fenatech for many years. Ron
Mhm.
Crowell, genius, Samantha Hudick, who did a great job with it, and Horst and the gang, everybody there did such a nice job with it. NGA now is managing it and taking it over. And this is for fabricators to see what the latest and greatest is from the machinery and equipment and automation side, software. And I think this has the potential to be just as big and as powerful as BEC someday because of what it delivers. And that's in Nashville too. And I know you're real excited about that.
I am. Yeah, GPAD is to glass fabricators, glass processors, depending on what you call yourself. That glazing contract. BEC is to glazing contractors. So it is the seminal event of the year for glass fabricators. It's smaller right now, and that's part of why Fenatech, wanted NGA to sort of assume responsibility for that. It is another jewel in our crown, so to speak, because we do represent the entire supply chain. And so we have something for glazing contractors, we have something for the glass fabricators, we have for the glass companies. We'll get to glass, glass build for the entire universe, the technical people. So this is our first time hosting it fully. The Fenatech team is still deeply involved, but as a trade association, we are poised or able to expand and involve more companies. And we don't want to take it away from that nucleus of, that networking and what the previous GPAD attendees really liked about it. So one of the things that we did, again, thinking about the supply chain, is bringing it to Nashville and co-locating it with BEC. And the reason for that, twofold. We're a trade association, we're a nonprofit. We wanted to make things, economical in some sense. We have a beautiful hotel. We've leveraged the meeting space and all the rest of it. But also it's an opportunity, and we're calling it Bridge Day. Between or after BEC and before GPAD, we have a day, and we're going to have some terrific, really interesting speakers lined up, common topics that both glazing contractors and glass fabricators need to meet about. And especially with, and I thought I can't say pandemic more than 3 times, I might be at number 4 now, but with the supply chain challenges, which you've talked about and write about, and so many other challenges that our industry is always facing, and there's always something new. Our communication between the suppliers and the customers, in this case, the glazing contractors and the glass fabricators and the supplier and the glass contractors, is really more important than ever. We can't be having any internal fighting, and there's always going to be that. It's construction, it's manufacturing, it's tough business. But the more we can understand how we can, and you talked about it recently, we got to communicate, we got to talk to each other better. So that's what we're hoping to achieve with Bridge Day, literally bridging the two events and bridging the gap. Yeah. So I think it'll be interesting. But, if you are a glass fabricator and you want to cut your production times, you want to, make sure that you're efficient and producing the best glass products you can the first time, so that that you didn't get all this stuff to the job site and then you find out that the glazing contractor can't install it, and who says, it's always finger pointing, well, you did this wrong, you measured wrong, you did this. Let's just get it right the first time and talk better, more.
Absolutely. And to learn more about the ones we just mentioned, glass.org, and look under the events tab. And registration is open on all 3 of those right now. So you can check that out and see the timing and get set up on it. And if you have any questions, you can obviously reach out to me, reach out to anybody at NGA, but it's definitely something you want to do. And now, last but not least, the granddaddy of them all, and this year it's in October, Glass Build America in Las Vegas. We're going later in the year. Vegas is much nicer in October than it is in September. So I think it's going to be a great show. And after this past year, I think I can't tell you how many people said, it's so great to be back. And people saying, I used to take this for granted. And now, after missing one and us not having one, in 2020, it was just so nice to be back together. And so it's like, hey, we should never, ever miss another glass build again, and gather at an opportunity to learn more, explore your supply chain at every level, network at every level on a major setting, the largest show in North America. I can't wait. And that's glassbuild.com. But talk a little bit about, you've been involved with Glassbuild longer than I have. I remember, one year it was in Vegas when I was a customer, and we had a booth, and you were able to get us a nice space on the floor. I'm like, wow, it was the coolest thing to be involved in. I think that was 97. So you've been with on the glass build train for a long time. It's so crucial to our world, so important to our industry.
Yeah, it's, it's our showcase for our industry. And it's where, just like any big trade show, it's where everybody comes together, the suppliers, the customers. And I'm always struck by people who, well, let me tell you a story. A couple of years ago, I saw a glass company owner I hadn't seen in a few years. And I said, hey, it's great to see you. And he said, yeah, I said, I haven't come because I was having a little trouble in the company and it was a succession issue internal. And he said, but wow, he said, yeah, that was a mistake. And, you don't want to lead with the kind of, the negative side of that, but it really, it's a mistake if you don't come to
Right.
your own industry's trade show, every year, honestly. You see the new products, you engage with other people, you see your competitors, you talk to your competitors. It's a safe place, and it's also where you see it all.
Mhm.
So I think that we do go back and forth between Atlanta and Las Vegas, and that's because of the size of the show. We're known as a heavy show.
Right.
And so logistically, we're always trying to be super efficient at the trade association to make the most of our member dues. And Glass Build does, pay the way for all the education, my glass class, a lot of things that we do as a trade association. But yeah, I love the show, the energy, the action, and everything else. And it's been around a long time in different guises, and you've certainly helped us grow the show tremendously, Max, which I really appreciate. Um, and I think it's interesting because we are the only game in town of this size, in this hemisphere, never mind
Yeah.
North America. And the reason we're in October this year, which I actually like it every 6 years, we are a sister show to Glass Tech in Germany, the big the biggest show in the world. And there's also Fensterbau. So we represent, this show encompasses glass, and I'm talking to you, you know this already, glass and the window and door, the fenestration side. But every 6 years, the show as big as Glass Tech is gets punted out of their space in Messe
Right.
Dusseldorf halls for a plastic show, which is huge. So because we have this reciprocity, we always move our show to accommodate them. So Glass Tech, a tremendous show. And that's another
Yes.
one I would urge you, if you haven't gone to Glass Tech, that's our industry's biggest show, or Fensterbau for the residential window and door industry, you're missing out. I mean, really, I know it's a lot to get over to Germany, and both those shows are in Germany. But you really should. It's like, it's mind blowing, really. So our show, always aspires to that, but it's tremendous in its own right. It is the biggest show. It is, we have like 350, sometimes 400 exhibitors. Yeah.
But no, I do think that with glass build though, I think with the glazing executive forum, I think is perfect because that encompasses glass shops and medium-sized glazing operations, and they learn a ton. They have an opportunity to hear from an economist that chances are they'd never ever hear from normally. Get to do best practices and roundtables. The education and content that Jenny Chase and her team puts together is top notch, and it all goes into the way this show continues to evolve. And I think Glassbuild will continue to evolve, that it's not going to be just up and down the aisles looking at things. There's going to be so many things going on that you can round out your experience and your education being involved, and that's what excites me about where we're going with Glassbuild and NGA right now.
Yeah, and I would say to that point of it's a mega trade show. It's a fantastic trade show, and it's also all those other things. And that's why you see posses of glass company owners going through, and window and door owners too, going through the halls, and they often have people with them, and it's a treat. It's like, oh yeah, this year we brought these plant managers to come to Glass Build. And it's a really, and that their eyes are wide open. I mean, it's really unlike anything a lot of people have ever seen before at that
Yeah.
scale.
Yeah, I thought it was in a great example. That's my shower door guys out of Florida. They brought a whole crew of people who hadn't been to the show. They had goals in mind of what to see, and it was a great experience for those folks to to see it. And I caught up with them. So I saw him on the first day, and I caught up with him on the second day. And what do you think? And the reaction was, I did not expect this. I didn't think that there'd be so much to see. I never thought this piece of equipment would be sitting here, and getting to see it work. And so there's so much there, and that is in October, and glassbuild.com is where you would learn more. And registration for that opens up later this year. And obviously you'll see some promotion on that. And it's another baby of mine. I battle. My wife picks on me. She goes, which one's your baby, BEC or glassbuild? I'm like, it's like trying to pick between my two kids. I love them both. I don't know. It's, they're both my favorites. So I can't wait for both. And thank you for allowing me to work. Thank you for allowing me to work in it. So I know you're swamped, and so I appreciate taking the time. I'm with Nicole Harris, President and CEO of National Glass Association. Last question. We survived 2020, which was beyond words at this point. 2021 was definitely kind of interesting because of just the ups and downs. Thinking, quite frankly, thinking in June we were on the other side, and then Delta happened and things changed again, and we're kind of going through it now with the latest variant. What's your hope for 2022? I mean, I know what you're doing, personally. You're going to learn something new every day, and you're going to think again. But what about NGA goals, overall goals? What's your hope for 2022?
That joke about world peace. When you think about what I hope for this next year. Well, it's a lot closer than that for me personally, and it's really about staying open and curious. And that's a personal goal. It all relates to that think again. I always try to sort of string together all these themes into one focus so that I'm constantly focusing on it. And staying open and curious is something that I think we as a country and really the entire world, we need more attention paid there. We need to evaluate our own prejudices, our own opinions, our own mindsets, just that word mindset. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm trying to focus on. And it does represent what a trade association represents. We bring together all these people, all these disparate opinions. We bring competitors together. That's what trade associations are about. And we have, discourse. We find solutions to common problems. And when we disagree, but we really focus on the unifiers. So yeah, like I said, not exactly world peace, but we're trying to do that with Bridge Day, lots of different ways, lots of small ways and big ways, but that's what I'm hoping for.
NGA definitely provides solutions, and obviously you're at the head of that solution based approach, and helping this industry, making this industry better, and that's what we all want. A better industry is better for all of us. And again, glass.org is where you can find all of this. You can get registered for the Glass Conference. You can get registered now for BEC and GPAD, and you can pay attention to all that's going on technical and advocacy. myglassclass.com. You can get there as well. Also see things like the member spotlights. We have so many incredible members. And if you're not a member, you can join right there on glass.org as well. So follow the lead of many folks in this industry and becoming a member of the NGA. And so Nicole Harris, President and CEO of NGA, thank you so much. Thank you for taking the time and squeezing me into your schedule, because I know you're juggling tons of stuff these days. So thank you so much.
I wouldn't have missed it, Max. Thank you. It's
awesome.
been great knowing you, and I look forward to next year. We'll have some fun.
Awesome. Well, let's do. Hey, I will check in again soon, because I want to see if you survived 365 days of new ideas and new things. So that
actually that tells me I should probably do a journal, like even a little gratitude journal. But the bigger part of what's the little thing can be really simple.
Yeah. You may want to. You're not too far behind. We're only a few days into the month when we're recording this, so you don't want to try to do that like February 15th, and try to do 45 days worth sort of thing. Well, thank you. Exactly. Thank you again, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Max. Bye.
Okay. We are now set for our next guest, and I am, absolutely honored to go north of the border for me to Canada, Western Canada, and introduce and bring in Tara Brummet of Vitrum. And Tara is the business or chief of staff now at Vitrum. and we're going to get caught up on her career. But I'm a huge fan, and I can't wait to get to talk with you because of your path to this industry and to the spot right now. And you are a shining star. So I feel like honored that you're giving me some time on this very cold January morning that we're recording this. Thank you for joining me, Tara.
Thank you so much, Max. I am honored to be here. I've seen many of the podcast shows, and you have some pretty amazing people on here. So I'm honored. Thank you.
Well, I'm thrilled to add you to the list, and you're quite amazing yourself. And I'm excited to hear about your past. And it was funny because you gave me some some background detail. I had no idea. I've known you for a few years, but I had no idea you started in production making samples way back when. So talk about your path from when you got into this crazy industry to now.
Yeah, so I kind of stumbled by it by chance. I was in Calgary in Alberta, and I started working for Gold Ray.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, Greg Soroka hired me, and yeah, I worked there for a bit, and I ended up in production. I was cutting samples by hand, pre-masking for sandblast, and that was a lot of fun. But I was young and I wanted to get the office job and that
Right.
kind of thing. So they moved me into the office. I kind of did a range of different positions there, just learning everything that I could, the basics, order entry, that kind of thing. And then we ended up getting the opportunity to work a little bit more in afternoons on a kind of an off shift just to help out. And so we started working in silkscreen, and I really enjoyed that. And I really got a passion for the operations and how that all works. And we had a lot of fun. So learned a ton.
Yeah.
Eventually went into the sales side of things. And, I had really amazing mentors there, Mike and Kathy and Greg, and they taught me a lot and kind of pulled me in, I think, to
Sure.
the industry and
Sure.
the love of glass, and they do such cool products. And so that was really fun time.
And then, the nice thing about, I didn't mean to interrupt you. The nice thing about what you've brought to the table up to this point was that you learned from the floor, and you learned, you handled glass. And I've said before on this podcast and other areas, technical sales is like the hot thing now. But you were ahead of that game years and years ago. You knew the technical angle, from starting on the floor, which I think has made you as successful as you are, because somebody can't say to you, well, you don't know how this all happened. Well, you do. You worked on the operations, and I think that's what sets you apart from a lot of the people you run up against.
It's true. Actually walking with glass in your hands and having it break when it's tempered, nothing experiences it and gets you to understand it more than that scenario. So
it is the craziest
really
phenomenon. People who've never had that spontaneous breakage. I mean, I still remember the first time it was a piece of 3/8. And when it just disappears on you, there's no sensation you can, imitate to make that feel. It just goes from heavy to nothing. It's crazy, but yeah, so you get it. And I think that's what sets you apart.
Yeah, absolutely. I really love that part. And I learned from that's the way to really understand everything and be able to answer questions and that kind of thing. So I always just kind of wanted to learn about the operations and how everything goes and different areas and that kind of thing. So I got really involved. And so eventually when I wanted to move back to BC, which is where I'm originally from, my mentors at Gold Ray connected me with Garibaldi. Right. And so, at that moment, I will admit that I had this tiny thought where I was like, should I try something else? Should I, try a different industry?
Oh, thank goodness you did.
I ended up just, now, I like what I'm doing. I'm gonna go for this and keep going. And so then I met the Garibaldi crew, and again, just like huge learning, a bunch of different positions. Yep. A lot of customer service, inside sales, but also just still having that connection to production and being out on the floor and getting to know how we do everything. And then I took some project management and managed some projects and just kind of grew with the company. I
Yeah.
mean, they were great at you know, pushing me along and helping me grow
Sure.
and that kind of thing. So yeah, that was almost 10 years, just over 10 years I spent with them.
Okay.
And then I was telling you,
yeah.
there I was, and at that time, I had started to get into some of the industry events, and
Yeah.
that's where I met Thomas and learned about this, Vitrum company that was down the road, and I really knew nothing about. And we knew them, we knew who they were.
Yeah.
They were a
Sure.
competitor, and but really not understanding what was between the walls. And so had the opportunity to do a facility tour and was just completely blown away. And made the move here, and here I am.
The rest is history, and we'll,
The
we'll
rest
talk a
is
little bit
history.
more. We'll talk a little bit more about Vitrum in depth in a few seconds. But obviously, if you're talking about Thomas, and that's Thomas Martini, and Vitrum, you can find them on the web at www.vitrum.ca, and it's a tremendous website, and definitely something to see. And so you mentioned, initially getting thrown into the industry events, and that's when I first met you, as one of these industry events. And you're incredibly popular because you have this positive outlook, and people seemingly go to you. Like I joked with you in an email, when you announced on LinkedIn your chief of staff position. I mean, it was like a viral moment. I mean, anybody who was anyone, it was like congratulating you. It was like a rundown of a who's who of the industry. Obviously, it goes way back. You had to be. I'm just curious. These industry events. How did you, decide that, all right, I'm going to throw myself into this? Because the tough thing is you're a woman, and so it's like 99-1 at some points, male to female. So it could be a little bit daunting. But you took it on, and now you are definitely, a leader in this space. But talk about the kind of the initial nervousness and throwing yourself into the industry, and then how it's paid off.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, it was daunting, definitely, because even though I had been doing it for a few years, technically I was still maybe not where I felt comfortable in kind of the group that you walk into in
Right.
some of these events. And we're talking like, whoa, these guys are smart. They know their stuff. So I got involved just because I kind of wanted to dive right in and learn as much as I possibly could and just be part of the industry. And I was in it. I was in 100%. I wasn't going anywhere. That was over. So I started off with NGA and just it was an obvious one, and it's easy to access, and I had met a few people that had been involved. And back then, I guess there was a much smaller ratio of females.
Yeah.
When I think about it, which is amazing. It's not really that way today. There's a pretty strong female presence. But yeah, it was definitely it was a bit scary, and I was like, how can I really help these guys, right? Like,
Yeah.
they know what they're doing, and I'm like, well, maybe I can help with some editing on some documents. Like, I can do some spell check or some grammar check. And I was like, I'll just do whatever I can to help out. And once I got there, and everyone was so welcoming, they just kind of brought you in and made you part of the family. And so then I just started to really look forward to it. And I was not only I was learning, I was getting to meet some amazing people, learn even, broader things about the industry. And so then it just kind of grew from there. I just started, getting involved in as much as I could in local industries. And and just, it's amazing just to and now these, I'm connected to these people. These people are my friends, and I look forward to seeing them, and it's just a big family. And I don't know, since all I've ever done is glass, and I don't know if other industries are like this, or if we're just really lucky, and it really is like a big family, and everyone knows each other, and everyone likes each other and gets along.
I think it is us. I think we are lucky. I mean, I think sometimes it's a blessing and a curse because of the whole relationship thing. Sometimes, can be an issue in some circumstances, but it is amazing. And it was really exciting to hear you talk about the fact that, you get in and you feel that comfort level. And I think that, sometimes the intimidation, people come in and because, people, in the glass industry sometimes don't run around with huge smiles on their faces, it doesn't mean we're not welcoming. And I think you look at events like BEC and Glass Build is, everybody's so excited to see everyone else. And you usually only, I only see you 1 or 2 times a year. And that goes for a lot of the folks in this industry. So it's worth it. And you really look forward to that. And then the other thing
Absolutely.
is I'm very excited about the, more and more females and more diversity in our meetings. And, people like yourself and Casey Anderson from ICD, who's spectacular, and Cindy Sim. And I mean, I can go down the list. And that's what really, I like the fact that our meetings have gotten just so much better because we have so many differing viewpoints now, and it makes our industry better. So again, thank you. You were one of the trailblazers, my friend. You definitely were one, because we're like, wait, who is that? Why is she here? So now switching gears, talking about Vitrum. I mean, this is a fabulous company. The work that you guys do is amazing. And it almost kind of feels to me that if it's too easy, you guys don't want it. You want something that's like really, really hard. And so, I'm amazed you have a full head of hair, because some of the projects you do, I would be pulling it all out. I already have, but you guys do tough work. It's almost like you welcome that sophisticated work. Is that a part of that mindset that Thomas and the team and you have, or is it just, hey, people know that when they need something tough, they come to you?
I would say we're definitely not afraid to try anything new. We're kind of always up for a challenge.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, yeah, I think that's mostly it. We like to try new things. We like to get involved in we like the easy ones too, but
Yeah.
but it definitely, because we have everything under one roof, we're just kind of set up perfectly to be able to do some of these more complex projects. And the capacity, the volume, the size limitations it seems to fall in our lap sometimes, just because of all those reasons. Yeah.
Sure. What's the thing that makes you most proud about the team you work with there at Vitrum?
Um, there's a lot of things, but the one thing I think that every single person that can feel when they walk through the door, visitor, employee, it's just the passion that lives within every person, from the guy loading the tempering oven to the truck drivers to Thomas, obviously.
Yeah.
So it's through and through. Everyone is excited and always trying to do a great job and improve things and make things better. And our engineering department is always trying to be a couple of steps ahead. And so it's just we breathe passion. It's
I like
so.
it.
And that creates the culture. I mean, the people are great. The people are amazing. It's fun to come to work every day. These are, my family. I spend probably more time with them than I do with my own. So,
You do.
that's great.
That is awesome. That is awesome. And so those of you that are watching on YouTube, now's the time that when I have guests like Tara, to talk about project profile. And you've got a dandy of a project, because this is not something that is a typical off the shelf sort of thing. We've got new technology on this project. So talk to me about this project that we're going to put up on the screen, featuring I know for some of us dynamic glazing's not new, but for a lot of people it is. And you have the newest entry in the race in the dynamic space. So talk a little bit about this one.
Yeah, so this project is 201 Haskins. It's in San Francisco, and it was the first project that we kind of partnered up with Haleo.
Mm-hmm.
We learned about their product. I mean, we had seen it and we had seen samples and knew of it, but had never actually had the opportunity to really get into it and work on a project. So this was our introduction. We were blown away by their technology, their product, the color, transition, everything. So really excited. It was actually Royal Glass who kind of started that all. They were the ones with the project and were awarded and kind of pulled us all together as a team.
Right.
And It had its challenges for sure. First time, all of us kind of getting together and working through it, but, two amazing companies that we were all able to, really kind of get a good plan going and strategy and pull together and make it happen. So.
Yeah, that communication is huge, and when you have a good relationship with all of the supply chain, that makes the project go so much smoother. And Royal is obviously a fantastic company. You guys are strong. Halio is really making a nice path. So this turned out well because of all of that. So I'm excited for the way it looks on our industry.
Yeah, it was really great. And then it just, the Halio product just kept coming and kept growing. And we helped them on the, fabrication side and how that works. And they helped us on their product and how that works. And we spent a lot of time with them. Just, they were in our facility, we were in their facility and working together. And it's been really fun with them. Really cool to be part of that.
Fantastic. And so aside from them, and obviously that's a big trend, I feel like there's a niche in that trending area right now with dynamic, VIG and transparent solar, people like Ubiquitous Energy. I feel like that's a hot niche. But you have one more trend that when I saw it on your notes back to me, I was surprised. The triples are a trend for you.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's just because of the area that we're in, but there's not a time where we don't have triples running through our facility.
Interesting.
We kind of have a line set up specifically that it's just, it's running triples all the time. So yeah, it's really kind of boomed in the last couple of years.
Yeah, and it makes sense. I mean, it's a great product for, obviously triples with acoustic is huge, and there's definitely more of a focus now on noise pollution. That whole occupant comfort thing is the noise is a part of comfort, and being able to block that out is something. So interesting that you have the triples in there along with dynamic glazing, and you guys are connected with Halio, which they're making a nice little run in the dynamic space, and so and a good choice of partners, that's for sure. So
Absolutely.
I know you're swamped, chief of staff at Vitrum Glass Group in British Columbia. www.vitrum.ca is the website. Tara Brummet is my guest today. And before I let you go, 2022, we're a few weeks into it. How's it looking for you? How's it looking for Vitrum? Anything exciting? Anything worrisome? Talk to me about the year ahead.
Worrisome. I mean, we just do not want a repeat of 2021. That's it. Personally excited to see people face to face again. Yes. I can't wait. More often, not getting canceled last minute. So yes. I hope that is in the works. No, we're good. I mean, there's a lot of really fun projects coming up. I think along with everyone else in all industries, supply chain and labor are always, something that we're thinking about in the back of our minds. But we're pretty good at kind of staying a couple steps ahead of that and making sure we're prepared and just kind of staying on top of it. But yeah, there's a lot of work and a lot of really, really cool projects out there happening. So I think it's going to be a good one.
Good. I can't wait to see them. Obviously, I'm a fan of you, fan of the company, and excited to see what you do. And then I'm with you. I really hope that we don't have any more cancellations. We've got to keep getting back to normal here. And I know that for things like Glass Build, it was a challenge for you to come over the border into the US, and I'd like to get that to go away too, so you don't have to deal with everything you had to deal with to get there, because that stopped a lot of people from coming from Canada, that canceled just because it was such a hassle. So 2022 is going to be a better year. It has to be. It's starting off a little janky, but it's going to be a better year.
They're just testing us right now. We'll get there.
They are. It is. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. Tara Brummet, the chief of staff of Vitrum Glass Group up in British Columbia. Great company. Vitrum.ca is the website. And thank you for taking the time. And I look forward to seeing you at the next industry event.
Thank you so much, Max. I hope to see you soon. Definitely.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, to wrap things up this month on the podcast, I've got Andy Russo, who is the Vice President of Glass and Engineering Services with Glass and Metalcraft out of Michigan. You can find them online at www.glassandmetalcraft.com. And Andy's a guy I go a few years back with, and I'm just thrilled to get to talk to you and get to know you a little bit better. So thank you so much for doing the podcast.
Absolutely, my pleasure, Max. It's we've been together for a while, and always love listening to your podcast. So it's fun to participate.
I appreciate that. And I'm a fan, and so really the first thing is to kind of get started with you. And I always ask, what's the path? Where'd you come from? So on and so forth. And I had sent you the outline, and you sent me some answers back just so you were getting your thoughts together. And you shocked me. I did not expect the where you were born and where you were from sort of thing. So talk a little bit about the start of Andy Russo, from where you were born and kind of leading into this glass and glazing craziness.
Yeah, so I got a little unusual background, I guess. I was born in Italy. My parents were, let's just call them fresh off the boat here in the U.S.
Okay.
My path, my dad was an industrial engineer who became plant manager and eventually an industrial executive. And we lived all over the world. I lived in Brazil. I lived in Argentina, made brief stops in other places before eventually landing here in Michigan, where my dad was part of the automotive industry. He was an exec with an automotive tier supplier.
You kind of cover it well, because I would have thought you were like born and raised and lived in Michigan your entire life.
Yeah, English is actually my third language.
Really?
So once in a while, I'll say something stupid and I'll just blame it on that.
Did not know that. Okay, so I love the fact that I had noted to you that your career, you had that auto background. Obviously, that comes from your dad, right? So he kind of started that process, and that's that you followed that path because of him, or it just happened, by happenstance.
Well, I having kind of been living in southeastern Michigan, I would say probably 8 of 10 or 9 of 10 people, at least in the time period I've lived here, at some point worked in the automotive market.
Right.
My path probably a little bit driven by my dad. I was going to be an engineer. That's how it kind of started out. Went to school, got my first summer internship job, and it didn't really align with what I wanted to do. So I changed my major to business, and subsequently stayed in the automotive area, but more from a business sense than from an engineering sense. But awesome. I've always been attached to some sort of technical. I'm still fascinated by cars.
Yeah.
I like the way things go together. I like to figure out how things work, which I think is frankly a recipe for success in any business.
Absolutely. And I miss. Where'd you go to school? Where'd you go to college?
I went to Eastern Michigan.
That's right. And
EMU. That's right.
Got it. I liked your auto experience background, because that is such an intense industry. And then you come over to the glass industry, where we're good, but we're nowhere close to kind of the levels of standards that auto had. And so you kind of had a really interesting, background in that auto side. And then you pop over into the glass. Initially, that had to be like a shock to your system a little bit.
Well, sort of, I guess. Yeah. The automotive side of the business, as you say, they've had, decades of improvement, right? They had a hard lesson in the 1970s. They did things the same way for many, many years. And then upstarts from, let's call it Japan, came in and really changed the landscape and set a new bar, right? So then they had to adjust to that. And then the rate of change was rapidly changing. So it wasn't good enough to be at the 1970s rate in the 1980s and so on and so forth. So companies became much more agile, right? And when I started, there was a pretty big gap between the US domestics and at that time, the Toyotas of the world.
Right.
I worked for a large tier 1 Japanese supplier whose largest customer is Toyota. And second largest customer was the one that I worked with. I learned quite a bit about the differences and approaches between the U.S. and Japan. I would probably boil it down to the Toyota method is the Toyota mindset is much more long-term, right? It's really being methodical about understanding where the issues are and addressing those changes. And sometimes those are not popular with the stock market. They're not
right.
near-term fixes, right? The U.S., we're still stuck on that, short time set mentality where we are, we want to please the masses And sometimes we'll make decisions, often we'll make decisions that are temporarily good, but don't help us in the long term, right? And that's carried over to various organizations.
Yeah, and we're definitely going to talk about some of the things that you made happen, and the way your mindset that you're just talking about really changed, the way business was done. But backing up, so you left the auto industry, you went to Guardian Glass, you were there for a decade. That's where I got to meet you, which you're part of an incredible team there with some great folks. That obviously had to be a really fascinating experience. And then you go to Glass and Metalcraft, or I think even would have Glass and Miracraft maybe at that point.
At the time, yep.
But that too I want to talk to you about, because that's a shock to the system, leaving $6-7 billion Guardian to go to strong independent fabricator, but nowhere near the size. So let's talk Guardian and then talk GMC.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Guardian is a very large, very successful. I'm very proud of the time that I spent there. It's a great group of people. In my opinion, and I'm biased, obviously, Guardian is probably the top producer of glass, at least in North America, and more than likely globally, because they have the same approach. I made a lot of strong connections there. There's a lot of people with what I would call subject matter expertise. Technically as well as business savvy. You and I both know Chris Dolan.
Yep.
Guy taught me almost everything I know about the commercial business. He's such an encyclopedia of information. Dario, as well, Dario Babich, who has a vast background on the architectural side, and obviously I've also had the experience of working with the residential side of the business. Have worked and met with a lot of very strong players. They have a very strong approach. What a lot of people may not know is that they're actually owned by Koch Industries since Bill Davidson passed away. And that brought a whole different level and layer of I would say, professionalism and more importantly, profit-mindedness to the way they run their business. And I think there have been so many good lessons for me from that perspective. I can't say enough about the way that they run their business. For me, coming over to GMC after that, I had worked with various fabricators and obviously Guardian customers. I saw something here that was a little bit different than what I had seen in other places. There were a variety of reasons of why I chose this path. I would say most importantly is that the leadership is very progressive. They are not stuck on what got them here. Right? So, and that was big. So, and also they've allowed me to have almost free reign with the way to run the business. So, and that's a challenge in and of itself, because most companies it's scary, right? You want to go with where everybody is going, right?
Yep.
What they're making. There's safety in numbers, so to speak. And it's scary to try to do something new. It's risky. Right. So that here, the approach, we already had a portion of our business that was unique, in my opinion, in a lot of people's opinions. And we took that business and that is what we're focusing on, making better and better. Right. So that's been the big thing here.
And that's been impressive. And I'll let you finish in a second, but I do think that the statement that I always point to in this industry is the famous, "That's the way we've always done it." That is like the most famous statement by far in this industry. And it's like you and the team at Glass and Metalcraft and the ownership, you took that statement, you put it into a pile, and you blew the whole thing up. Because you're as opposite of "that's the way we've always done it" as any company I've ever seen. And that's what really excites me, because what you've done and what the team has done and the transformation has been incredible. And I mean, you've got to look back at it, and you said that, they've given you that ability to do that, but you guys have really, put together something really, really special.
Yeah, we like to think so. I mean, it's as simple as the company was a fabricator, and there's a lot of fabricators, a lot of good fabricators out there, across the US, but, that isn't going to, the bottom line keeps shrinking if you do that. There's more and more good fabricators. The equipment that's available today is an equalizer, right? You're relying less and less on the craftsmanship, which is part of our name, and you're relying more and more on the equipment and the market. And you need to control it with different things that you can bring to the party, right? So the company had 20 plus years of what I would say a very solid engineering background.
Right.
We literally would work on projects alongside architects, alongside glazers for the more complex parts of the building, and found that was a high demand, frankly, high return area for us that really fit what we did. So for me coming into it, and I'd seen this before, it's more looking at this from saying, all right, I can spend my efforts, I can spend my resources doing something that is going to continue to return at an ever declining rate, and probably not challenge us as an organization, not develop us, or we can start growing the kinds of areas, understanding those kinds of areas that we really differentiate ourselves in, and grow that part of the business. And I think a lot of that is also understanding what our customers want,
right,
and packaging the entire thing in a fashion that works. So we're kind of unique in that we don't do any installation. We work exclusively through glazing contractors, right? So, which is something that some people say, hey, we got this unique thing, let's take it a step further and let's really burrow into the supply chain. That's not for us. We understand where we play, where the risk for us. And I think that's been a really good model here for us to follow.
Yeah, and you've taken the meat and potatoes of a classic glass fabricator, and you still do a lot of that. But you added all the exotics. You added in with the engineered systems, and that's where really takes flight, is because that's where it was tough. That's the sophisticated stuff. But also, you said you noticed you had that 20 years worth of engineering, and you were working alongside. You just needed some that push to get there, and I think that's where you're headed, and that's what you're doing now.
I think we're doing more and more of that, and our challenge now is to make the industry better. We have to become more consultative, right? So today, and maybe even for the past 4 years that I've been here, it's been a responding to what is out there. Our next challenge is really driving what's out there to be more in line with what we can do, and in my opinion, it makes it a more efficient, less risk, faster to market, lower cost. We call it total cost of ownership here. We basically reduce the total cost of ownership by doing all this stuff. And one of the core elements for us is doing as much as we possibly can out of the US. So we buy glass from Guardian 40 miles up the street. We make our own metal. We engineer here locally. So what some of those programs that are coming out right now have a Buy America clause. One of the few guys that can really participate in a lot of those things with the different mix of things that we have.
That's exciting. That's exciting. So I'm with Andy Russo. He's the VP of Glass and Engineering Services at Glass and Metalcraft. You can see everything that they do online at www.glassandmetalcraft.com. And if you're watching this on YouTube, now's your chance to see some of the things that they're doing right here, because I'm going to put up some pictures on some projects. And you sent me a bunch, and there's a lot to cover. And so as you're talking, when I go and edit this, I'm going to put those pictures in. But the Hyatt and the Warner, the twins that you call them, I remember seeing these for the first time. Ironically, I believe it was in Nashville at the BEC, the last BEC we had, and they're award winners from Guardian, and that's a Guardian Glass, and that's exciting. Those things were not easy buildings to do. So again, when we talk about you guys like the sophisticated, these two really set the tone.
Yeah, I think the challenging part is, so together, if you think of it as one project, because they basically ran concurrently, it's a good sized facade project. We're talking about IGs. What made it more complex is it's one general contractor, one architect, two different glazing companies doing it in two different styles. One was unitizing out of Indiana. The other one was stick building out of the backyard.
I did not realize one was unitized and one was stick. That's interesting.
Right. So that required two different approaches. With different types of glass, different things.
Deliveries. Yeah.
Different deliveries. It's a busy area. It's a busy neighborhood. So we had to figure out. We did, just to let you know, creatively, we had to do a lot of Saturday deliveries, which is probably not uncommon in the industry, but for us in this area, it's not that common, right? So it was definitely a fun, very challenging project that I think turned out very well for us, and also for Guardian, obviously, since they drove the specification and looks fantastic in my opinion.
And then you also sent me Striker, which was a beauty as well.
Yeah. So one of the things for us is our business. A lot of fabricators, a lot of glazing contractors tend to kind of pick interior, exterior. We like both, and frankly, and this is an interior project for us, where one of our glazing companies here in north southeast Michigan area, Calvin and Company, who you may know, very reputable guy, had this project. It's a very large building, and the interior, in my opinion, is a very creative use of glass. So they handed the entire project over to us. We actually pre-engineered the handrails. It was something that we had kind of on stock, so we were able to develop it and adjust it and install it, ready for install very, very quickly, as well as all of the interior glass. And there is quite a bit of it. If you look at the pictures, you'll see. I think it's a great open, airy space with a lot of natural light, which is what the architects are looking for and the environments that we love to work in, right? So I really enjoy that project, and I'm really proud of what the team here was able to do in alignment with our glazing customer.
No doubt. And again, natural light, you're playing right into it with some of these engineered products that you have because of the overhead glazing that you're doing, and or you're doing the handrails and with all glass, right, or the windscreens, and so all of these things play into it. And you sent me a couple others. Any other comments on some of the others? I'll put them up on the screen.
Yeah. So one of the things, it's kind of interesting. This is something I've learned after the Guardian experience, is that Guardian, rightly so, focuses on the exterior of the building, and it's a large portion, very prominent, right? The facade. But from an architect's perspective, there are areas of the building where obviously everybody wants us to use glass in, but they are much more complicated, even though they look it, right? So something as simple as what we call vestibules or entrance boxes or whatever you want to call them. There's quite a few of those out there that stymie the glazer. In many cases, there's site conditions that really get in the way of easy execution. So a lot of engineering involved. So the other pictures that I've sent you a few that are, because we do that type of work, we do all over the country.
Right.
It's in Hawaii, East Coast, down south. And I think this embodies some of that work. We have a great project in Chicago that we just finished. It was actually our first iteration of this type of pre-engineered system. Explain what a pre-engineered system is.
Please.
Basically work to develop this box. It is scalable and it is modular. So we can kind of say, here, Mr. Architect or Mr. Glazer, if you have the ability, use this already designed thing. It can be adapted, it could be extended, it could be doubled up for use in the building with minimal risk. A lot of the thought is the engineering is established, obviously, so a lot of the thinking is out of the way. The components are pre-established generally. It can be tweaked, of course.
Right.
So we have three types of those. This one here has an internal steel skeleton, and it actually was adapted to be both interior and exterior. We call it an innie and outie type of thing. So a lot of times the vestibules have, as you know, just an interior component, sometimes exterior. This actually covers both. So it's quite challenging. But again, you look at something like this, you walk into a building, you may not even notice it, right? So it's the finer details that a lot of the architects kind of gravitate towards that we help bring to fruition. And that's how we've been successful.
And I've liked that. And I love what you said earlier. And I think that's a big key about our industry, is that being a consultant and being that consultative sort of scenario. And I've had lunch with you where you've talked about, hey, architect called me, had me come out and talk to me about solutions. He pointed out on the side of his building, what can you guys do here? And we as an industry, we need to do that. That's our world. We want that for us. And so kudos to you for developing that. I
think one key thing there, it's easy to make this an us versus them environment.
Right.
I know you've seen it. We see it all the time. The specification is written, then you go to execute it, and there's all kinds of finger pointing and blame, right? And then you're doing RFIs to try to figure stuff out. By then it's too late. The project's been budgeted, everything's been, it's a mess. Having that consultation, especially if you do it early on, Guardian does it with coated glass as a daily occurrence. That is so important for us. And I think a lesson for anybody listening in that would be working on projects and thinking about, how do I make this thing better? How do we become more consultative? How do we be smarter about, how do we teach people what it is that's making it hard for me to make this?
That's the key. And I think the people that are winning in our industry right now, folks like you, folks like Adrian Lowenstein at Skyline, and Matt Verderamo at Alliance Exterior Glazing, and Thomas Cornelia, Incorporated, and so on. They're all winning because TSI,
Yeah.
they're all winning because they're doing what you're talking about. They're out there consulting and being in front and not being afraid of things either, and just taking it all on. And kudos to you.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it's a great position to be in, frankly.
Absolutely. So a fun one before a couple of fun ones before we end. A guilty pleasure of yours, and again, you had kind of noted back to me another one I did not expect. This podcast has been filled. Earlier in the podcast, I had Nicole Harris on, and I asked her who her role model was, and I was shocked. I didn't expect that one. And now I did not. I thought your guilty pleasure, would probably be golf. And you joked that it kind of was in a way, but talk to me about what's your guilty pleasure these days?
So I've always been an outdoors person. I live on some property. My wife and I, we do a lot of things together. I love to mountain bike. I love to snowboard. I love to fly fish. Those are probably the three things that if I could do more of, I would be doing.
There you go.
And we do those things together. We have friends that kind of align with us on those things. Those are great. I do golf. I did kind of have a hiatus when my kids were younger. It obviously took probably a lot of people have this issue. It's tough to take the time out to do it.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, being up there, because I'm closer to 60 than I am to anything else. Taking time off and trying to golf again, tough. It's difficult to get back in the swing of things. It's painful sometimes, obviously, too, but I still do it. I enjoy doing it. We've got a great camaraderie of people here that golf. So the community is kind of built around it. It's a great social platform. So you have to participate in some of those things.
Sure. And I don't know. See, you live in Michigan. I live in Michigan, and the outdoors here right now during the winter is brutal. It's brutal, but
it's tough. It's cold. It's 4 degrees.
It is so miserable. And but golf season and outdoor season for fly fishing and everything will be coming around. I enjoy. I like your guilty pleasures there. Very cool. So tell me, what has you excited for 2022? What are you pumped up about for this year?
So, I mean, I think everybody would say, anybody who's optimistic would say to not have it be like 2020. Obviously, right. I think 2021. Health is important. Absolutely. Yeah. Right. Like a lot of other organizations, we have been challenged. Fortunately, we have not been hit super hard by COVID. We've been very progressive in that. We've incentivized people being vaccinated. We have a very high vaccination rate, but we're still getting breakthrough cases. So sure. That is difficult. So I'm hopeful that as the spring comes on, we will have some level of herd immunity and we will be in pretty good shape. The next thing for us is labor. A lot of companies are facing this too. It's been a very difficult, COVID kind of started an exodus, and it's been difficult to get people to come back. That had us kind of rearrange the way that we do business as well. I think that 2022 will be a correction. We're starting to already see it. We're getting more stability. Some of the more culturally aligned people have become more available. So that for us is a huge thing. I think the market supply chain obviously is a killer, especially sure. The glass hasn't necessarily been impacted by supply chain, but the metal part of our business, the engineering part of our business that relies on metal, it's tough. There's a lot of those products that over the last 15, 20 years have been sourced to China. That is a mess, right? Mm-hmm. So trying to maintain and stay ahead of the curve is a big thing that I think will change this year. And then just the overall stability of this roller coaster that it's been, right? So projects being delayed, and then popping up at the same time as every other project,
right?
So it's having to manage through that. I think we're going to see some stabilization. I don't know if that's going to happen in the first half of 2022, but I feel fairly confident that we're going to see some of that at the end of 22. We're seeing a lot of bidding. I would say from our perspective, and maybe a lot of other guys who are listening are seeing this as well. The bidding activity is very high, which has me hopeful that the commercial market in particular is going to continue to improve. It's been improving marginally. I'm hopeful that it's going to be continuing to improve. I feel like 2023 is going to be absolutely a knockout. 2022 is going to be better.
I like it.
Those are the things that I see out there. I'm looking forward to some warmer weather, obviously, both from a personal and business perspective, because the winters are tough.
They are. Well, no, I like your thought process on all of that, and I'm with you. And I assume I'll see you at BEC here in a couple months in Nashville.
Absolutely. Yep,
Wonderful.
absolutely. We're going to be there with a crew of people, and anybody who's listening wants us to come and say hi, hear some more about our story. You haven't stopped by.
Wonderful. I look forward to seeing you in person then, and if not before then. But thank you so much for doing this. I've been with Andy Russo, VP, Glass and Engineering Services, Glass and Metalcraft, great company in Michigan. Find them online at glassandmetalcraft.com. Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
No problem, Max. Great seeing you again.
Thank you. All right, that was Andy Russo, and fantastic interview, and appreciate his time. And we are wrapping things up. So as I do now, that's the thing that I've been doing at the wrap up, is doing some fun stuff, what I'm watching, what I might be reading, so listening to, whatever. For me, the guilty pleasure of TV and interesting is the miniseries Dope Sick that's on Hulu. Credit and hat tip to Chris Dolan for this one. I knew a little bit about the story. It's about the oxycodone and OxyContin controversies and overdoses and so on. Didn't know a lot about it. Really, actually didn't have much of an interest in watching it. Didn't know what to expect. Chris was like, no, you got to check it out. Trust me. And absolutely fantastic miniseries. Look inside of what went on and what is going on in that world, and with Purdue Pharma. And my gosh, it's a must watch. That is on Hulu. Please check that out if you want something very, very interesting to watch. And thank you, Chris, for that heads up. And I am also watching The Sopranos. 20 years late, but I'm on season 2 now. So please don't spoil me. Maybe by the time I get to BEC, I'll be close to being done with it. But that is the treadmill choice for me, is The Sopranos, and those episodes go pretty quick. All right. I'm not going to even bring up my Super Bowl predictions. I did pick the Ravens when they were actually, winning in the middle of the season, and I thought they would make the playoffs, and did not expect them to lose like 8 in a row. So anyway, I'm not going to even go there on the sports end. We'll see what happens on that level, and looking forward to all of that. But thank you so much, everyone, for checking out this month's podcast. I'll be back next month. 3 more guests, a couple lined up and locked in. One more still on the fence that I got to put together, but that'll be coming in February. Really looking forward to this group. And this has been a pleasure to serve all of you with some fun and interesting podcast information and details and insights. Thank you for your support, and we will see you later.
Oh, the music is stopped.